thing alone. And lo and behold, like 24 people showed up to help push the chair. And we might have even been a little bit over our park limit. I'm not entirely sure. I won't commit to that. I won't admit it. It may or may not have happened. If we were, some people didn't exist. But the community showed up at our first event with the Trailrider and said, we want to be part of this. This is mountaineering. It's what we believe in. It's part of our values. And we took this chair up Green Mountain in the foothills of Denver. It was a breeze. I mean, I couldn't believe the difference in effort. I mean, I felt like I could climb 2 14ers after it. I was so fresh because all these individuals decided they wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to come share some of their strength to share an impossible experience with somebody who maybe otherwise may not have left the parking lot. And it was an amazing example of community and team building. I mean, the Trailrider, I'm sure you could vouch for this as well, Jerry. It forces team. There's no, we're moving at different paces. Yeah, we're moving at different paces. We're doing things.
It's interesting, the transformation that occurs. You know, it's not just for the person that's in that chair. It's for every single person that was on that journey. You know, everything that we do, there's transformation that constantly occurs. I was just thinking when you were talking, I don't know how many people that I've taught how to ride a bike for the first time that's over 50 years old. And it's because they've never had access to a hand cycle and they've been in a wheelchair, you know, for their entire life. You know, it's not something that people go out and buy, you know, on a common basis just due to expense. But when you give them access and you put them on that cycle and you see that grin from ear to ear that they're able to self-propel themselves for the very first time in their life, it's just amazing. It's amazing the transformation that happens.
We had Austin, and I hope he's told me a few years ago he's happy with me sharing this quote, and I hope he still is because I'm going to do it anyways. He said after one of his first events, he said, you know, he actually shared this with his aunt, and his aunt told me he wanted it to be shared with me, and it's a great quote. You should use it, okay? And it was I'm going to paraphrase, but it was, you know, I had no idea what I was capable of until that adventure, and now I feel like I can do anything. You know, everything that was shut off to me in my entire life, and everybody said, no, you can't do any of this stuff. Once you accomplish one part of it, every door and window to any path you could imagine opens up for you. It redefines what reality is. I mean, there's that saying that everything is impossible until somebody does it, right? I mean, and why not push that barrier? What fun is life? Life is stale when you don't push that barrier within yourself. And so, you know, we see that in our volunteers and our riders that, you know, I don't think I can push that Trailrider, or I don't think I can go up a mountain. It's always been told it was impossible for me. And the minute that happens, it really opens things up for people. It changes the reality of capability.
That's for sure.
So for Daring Adventures and the Lockwood Foundation, how can people help? How can they donate? How can they make your mission keep on going?
I'll let you go first, Jerry.
Okay. Well, we have 3 words. We need participants, we need donors, and we need volunteers. And we would love, you know, people to, I think, get engaged in any of those things, and they can do them all simultaneously, or you know, just be a silent donor and, you know, feed money to the organization. But they can find us online. You know, it's www.daring-adventures.org, and it's a pretty easy website. We have a calendar of activities on there. You know, for right now, all of our in-person activities have been suspended, but we just started scheduling stuff for the month of November and December, where we're going to actually try kayaking, kind of like by appointment only to keep down the social distancing. And the other one, I believe, is cycling at the park that we're located out of, where we can team people up with volunteers to take them cycling. But we don't have any camping trips on the dockets yet, just those 2 activities. But yeah, we'd love to have you. We have we're going to be doing volunteer orientation virtually for the first time. I think that's going to be in 2 months down the road. All of our volunteers, you know, we require that they be CPR first aid certified, and that they have a background check. And then we do have, ambassador volunteers where they can actually work with the certified volunteers, and those are more like our junior volunteers that are assisting, but they're just, that they're not at the full capability of a volunteer. So I think probably the biggest thing for us is, when we say that we're an organization that we serve individuals with disabilities, there's just that certain percentage of people to say, oh, that's never going to be me, and I don't know anybody that's disabled. And that's so far from the truth. If you think outside and say, okay, do you know of anybody that may have a knee replacement and they need some therapy? What a better way to do it through cycling, on one of the canal banks and so forth, instead of, in a sterile physical therapy office, you can do it through outdoor recreation. So, yeah.
That's great. I'll send back some of the same stuff here. Our organizations have a lot of parallels, although I will say, quite frankly, Daring Adventures and what Jerry does over there is so much more developed over time space than what we do. But there are parallels, and I think that's where we found some synergy and trying to figure some of this stuff out ourselves, especially with the the current times and the nature of keeping the world safe but also accessible. So we need volunteers. That can be in the most straightforward sense. We need, I don't have a word for this anymore, but we're going to use porters for the meantime. We need volunteer hikers to be kind of porters, push, pull, our Trailrider up trails and down mountains. But beyond that, our volunteers aren't just pushing and pulling the chair. We have a high need for medical professionals. It both creates a safety net for us, but it also helps us battle as a very small microscopic organization. The public perception of what we're doing is wrong. If you say we've had adventures where we've had doctors, nurses, EMTs, flight paramedics, guides, wilderness first responders, caregivers, occupational therapists. I could go on forever on our adventures, and without them, what we are doing seems dangerous. It doesn't mean that it is, but it helps us create a safety net that the rider knows that they have, and that our volunteers know that they have. And quite frankly, the outside world sees, okay, you guys are taking the precautions that you need to. We had a search and rescue lead this last year tell us that we're more equipped and probably more capable than any of the teams they've taken out. And that, to me, was a huge turning point for us, because prior to that, I had been constant, and we still will, constantly fighting back people who just see what we do and make their assumption that what it is dangerous. Now I have a list of ammunition to send back at people like that, to defend what we do and why inclusivity is so important, and accessibility, and that, it might take a lot of effort and a lot of folks with professional skills to do it, but it also takes just a lot of heart. So we need porters, we need medical staff that are willing to volunteer. And the most important thing, and this is what Jenna was talking about earlier, is we need community. We're not trying to operate as a one-off. We're here for you. We're trying to operate almost, while we are a nonprofit, we need to fundraise, all these things that go along with that, capacity build. We want to operate almost like an inclusive hiking group club. So even if you can't pull or push the chair, we want people to be there to be community. If they aren't pushing and pulling the chair, it almost forces that element. If there's 3 people carrying you up a mountain, it feels like they're there to serve you, and it feels like you're different. And I've heard this from some of our participants. It's not universal, but there is a tendency for that. So even with volunteers, just to come along, take pictures, enjoy the community, that is just as important as anything else, because it changes the dynamic of what we do at our events. We need donations. We're a small organization trying to build an army of these trail chairs and otherwise. So that is important to us as well. We're also looking for participants to jump into our chairs and enjoy the adventure of a lifetime. That being said, we need shares. We need social media exposure, because it brings us all three of these things. We found that the more we grow in the social media element, the more participants, volunteers, and donations we get naturally. So that's something we're working really hard to do. And in fact, Jenna was a huge help today in stimulating the women of Colorado to through her posts and the women of Colorado to, you're talking 20,000 followers. Not that they all see these posts, but 20,000 followers having the ability to see what we're doing. And so that brings us everything we need. I would say the easiest way to reach us, and I know this wasn't part of the question, but Jerry did a little bit, and it's important to know. We have an Instagram. It's at the Lockwood Foundation. We have a Facebook. It's facebook.com/the Lockwood Foundation. We have a website, which is thelockwoodfoundation.org. Those are the best ways to reach us, to donate. Facebook's the best way to sign up for events and get details on that. And quite frankly, to reach out to me. We're small enough that I actually encourage people to add me on Facebook and reach out to me. And if they don't hear anything, just keep bugging me. I'm kind of the one-man army of executive director, founder, toilet cleaner, whatever it may be at the moment. But to reach out and to share what we're doing is huge. So that's what I'll say about our needs and the best ways to help us.
Jenna, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say for both organizations, if you don't have the ability to help financially or by volunteering, just like them on the social media channels that they just talked about. It's such an easy way to amplify an organization that you think is doing great things. So liking a post, pressing interested if they have an event on Facebook, sharing it with your friends. If you're in any Facebook groups with people that might find interest in hiking, share it with them, tell your friends about it. Just be their advocate for really free, easy, cheap ways that you can do it. It's really going to help amplify these organizations. And I also wanted to say that volunteering for organizations like this can be actually a very selfish thing. I think both guys alluded to this earlier. I mean, it makes you feel really good, but also, from the standpoint of a lot of people are, transitioning and moving to new places. If you are a person that likes hiking and has a big heart, this is the best place to make new friends. Additionally, I work, as I said, in the outdoor industry, helping connect people with jobs. And I talk to outdoor brands all the time. The number one thing they say to me is, we want to see you out there doing outdoorsy things and contributing to this industry, and saying, hey, I volunteer for an organization that helps make the outdoors more inclusive. That's going to go a long way. So just wanted to throw that out there, that you can really do great things by helping people, and you can also help yourself in the process.
I just want to add to that, and I'm just repeating what Jenna's saying because it's so powerful, but being part of a nonprofit organization that can change people's lives and impact their ability to be outdoors in this case, it's life-changing. I've cried at events myself at the end where I'm going, you guys, I can't do this alone. I've tried. Each and every one of you is a hero today. And every one of you gets to know for the rest of their lives that you impacted somebody's life and you made an experience, an unforgettable experience possible for them. And it's so powerful. I mean, I caught myself at the bottom of Quandary almost bawling during my closeout speech because I had so much gratitude for what we were able to do, and that each and every person there, I mean, they might as well have been wearing a cape. So I would like to reiterate and rehash what Jenna's saying, that everybody should try volunteering for an impactful organization. It will change your life through changing the lives of others.
Just to add to that, one thing that I did not talk about, and I really should just say a few words about it. And Zach, you kind of said this earlier, about the mentoring program with the teens. There's an awful lot of the social and emotional behaviors, that go in all of this stuff. And so we have, the only other employee that I have, Sarah, she's a certified rec therapist, and she's really able to bring to the table, the professional assistance that's needed to take an individual through that leisure ability model of when, they need that emotional support because they think that they can't do it. But then also knowing when to let them spread their wings to say they can do it. And then to applaud that. Not to say that a non-professional can't do that. It has just been extremely beneficial having her on staff. With that, we have some individuals. In particular, our very first teen trip was in 1994, and he's still with us to this day. But he has not. It wasn't until 2 years ago where he purchased his very first tent, his very first kayak, and his very first cycle. So it's really taken him all these years to get to that point.